Hey everybody and welcome back to Hardway Heroes. This is Joe, and what I have for you now is a breakdown and preview of what the Sixers will look like in NBA 2K18. Now to do this, I used the same Markel Fultz from the previous video. I added him to the Sixers, and then I dropped the lowest player on the roster. The Sixers are going to be a really interesting team next year. The process is complete as far as I can see. I don't see them picking up they'll make minor acquisitions, but for the most part, the nucleus of the process is there. So they're going to be a really fun team to play with in 2K18. I don't think 2K can make them a bottom tier team because, as I'll show you, this roster has a whole lot of talent on it. I don't think it would be fair. Like, you would just dominate. I believe they could beat a lot of 3, 2. They even could take out a 1 seed if you know exactly what you're doing. But let me get into my play style. I primarily come down and run pick and roll action. That's normally the action I use to start any type of offense I'm playing with. So when you look at these clips, it's going to be a lot of pick and roll to begin. One of the things you're going to need if you run the pick and roll as much as I do is a lot of pick and roll discipline because the computer and users you go against are going to cover over and try to stop the roll man. That's when you have to use a skip pass to the corner or to the wing. And if you can't master your pick and roll discipline, you're going to turn the ball over a lot. But I don't see that being too problematic. That just takes practice. Plus, we're going to see how the pick and roll mechanic works from 2K18, so I can't speak to that too much yet. Now I want to talk about the roster a little bit. Beginning with Markel Fultz, the newest acquisition. He's going to be a scoring guard. He can pass it a little bit. He won't be the primary ball handler for the Sixers, but he'll do a little bit of action in the pick and roll. The next player down is the process, Joel Embiid. He's going to be a major factor. He does basically everything you need. He's like Karl Anthony Towns, but I'd say his post game is actually a little bit better. So he'll be the go-to option one in this offense, no matter what you're doing. He has a lot of gravity on pick and rolls. He sucks all the defense over, basically. And then the third piece is going to be Ben Simmons. He's a transition monster. He's so fast, and he's 6'10". So basically, if you go to the lane with him, there's no stopping him, especially off of rebounds, fast breaks. Anytime you're in transition, you really want to get him the ball because that's where he's going to thrive. Dario Saric is going to be one of the key role players on this team. He has a good mid-range jumper. I didn't hit any of them in these clips, but normally if I use him, I'll hit 2 to 3 of them a game. So he's going to be very useful for that. But also he's a good passer and he has post game. The thing about the Sixers is all their bigs are really mobile and they rebound well. So if you get a rebound with one of them, say you get a rebound with Saric, if you kick it out to Simmons or Fultz on the wing, most of the time Joel Embiid is going to get a crazy streak. The two guard position for the Sixers is really up in the air. They had some guy who I wasn't very familiar with, and he wasn't too great, couldn't knock down open shots. So I tried not to use him too much. But I expect them to pick up an acquisition for the two guard, most likely. If not, that guy that they have is going to have to improve. As far as players off the bench, your number one bench player should be Jahlil Okafor. His post game is really crazy. His offense, he's also a good rebounder. I almost used pick and roll post entries with him more than Joel Embiid, which is just coming off the pick and roll and throwing it to a wing player, and then using the roller's deep position to get a deep post. That was a lot more effective actually with Jahlil Okafor, surprisingly, but that could be just because of fatigue and other factors like that in NBA. TJ McConnell is a decent player off the bench. He doesn't do a lot right, but he doesn't do a lot wrong. So you can use him kind of as a placeholder, just a regular playmaker. He can hit a mid range, which is useful. But besides that, I wouldn't expect much from him. The next player off the bench that's going to be very useful is Jared Bayless. If they retain him on the roster, he's a good 3-point shooter and he's extremely fast. So in transition, he's a threat to at least push the tempo and open some. A couple issues you're going to run into with this team is when you run a high pick and roll, if it happens to be Ben Simmons that spots up in the corner, he's not a good three ball shooter, so you're going to end up having to drive, and that can become a little bit frustrating. Aside from Robert Covington, another player who I didn't mention, but he's pretty good, really good 3-point shooter. Aside from him, the Sixers don't have many shooters on the roster, so you end up being stuck in some positions where you'll have an open three, but you can't take it. And that's going to be problematic also in play now, but it's something that you can work around pretty easily. One trick I had for working with the Ben Simmons problem of him shooting in the corner and missing was to switch him and Sarek. So put Ben at the 4 and then Sarek at the 3. But then on the matchups, put Sarek guarding the 4 and Ben Simmons guarding the 3. And that way, Ben Simmons will line up in positions that keep him closer to the hoop. And Sarek, who has better range, will stretch out. Like I said, I don't hit very consistently with Sarek, but overall, he's a better shooter. And even then, you can take a one dribble in mid range with him, and it's going to be a lot more effective than probably anything Ben Simmons is going to do except go to the lane and dunk. Defensively, starting off with Fultz, he's going to be okay for you. I don't think they'll overrate his defensive stats, but I don't think they'll be terrible either. If you know what you're doing with your on ball defense, you should be fine. If you off ball, things might get a little bit shaky, but I don't recommend off balling anyway. It's not a fun way to play the game. As far as defense, Ben Simmons is going to be your lockdown defender. He can guard any position, basically 1 through 5. He's very quick and he's tall. He's 6'10". So on guards, you can play off more and you'll still get a good shot contest. And if they try to go around you, he has a lot of length and a high block rating, so that's going to be problematic for any guard trying to score. As far as bigs, like I said, he's 6'10", and he has decent strength. So you're not really going to be able to bully him in the paint. So all it comes down to is shot contest discipline, which is something you can work on, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be like in 2K18. Joel Embiid's defense, he's really good rim protector, and he rebounds really well. That's going to be the main thing that helps you out with him on defense, besides him just getting out on the break if he doesn't get the rebound, which is really easy to use and get easy points. Dario Saric on defense is an average defender. He doesn't have too many weaknesses. Like I said, he's a pretty mobile big, and he has good strength. So I don't see him getting bullied, even though he's not exactly a standout on the defensive end. As you can see, my first game against the Pacers was more of a filling out process. That one was a lot closer all the way until the end. But right here with the Raptors, I kind of got my feel for the flow that this team plays with. And also, I got down like the go to scorers for each rotation. And so it was a lot easier to beat the Raptors. The computer is on Superstar right now. Hall of Fame is a little bit too high. You kind of get exploited. The game mechanics switch up a little bit too much. So I try to stay away from that, especially if I'm doing something like this where I'm trying to show the strengths and weaknesses of a team. And that's about it for a general breakdown of the Philadelphia 76ers roster and the strategy and style to play with them, strengths and weaknesses, all that good stuff. Like the video and subscribe. Comment and let me know how you stumbled upon the channel. And as always, thank you for watching. Joe from Hardwood Heroes. I'm out.